Hello my loves, it's me. Welcome back to my channel and an extra special welcome to those of you who are new to my channel. I'm so happy that you're here, and today we are going to trace all the way from one US president to another. And along the way, I'm going to share with you some interesting facts about our nation's leaders. This is part 1 of a 2-part series. So, if you're loving this kind of content, please make sure that you are subscribed. We've got more to come. The first president of the United States was George Washington. He served terms from 1789 to 1797. George Washington was born in Westmoreland County, Virginia on February 22, 1732. That's February as in the month of love. That's pretty fitting for President Valentine's Day episode. George Washington died at Mount Vernon in Virginia on December 14, 1799. So his cause of death was actually epiglottitis. If you want to know what that is, it's basically an infection of the flap that sits at the top of your windpipe. It can swell up and then it closes off your windpipe and then you suffocate. Not a very fun way to go. But the leading theory as to how George Washington contracted this illness is that he was trying to be a hero. You know, he was a hero already, but he wanted to be a better hero. He was visiting one of his friends who had come down with a serious case of smallpox, and he went into his friend's room without wearing any protective clothing or covering his face. And he ended up contracting the disease. So moving on from there, the second president of the United States was John Adams. He served one term from 1797 to 1801. John Adams was born in Braintree, Massachusetts on October 30, 1735. That's October as in the month of spooky season. How many of you guys celebrate Halloween? Let me know in the comments. John Adams died at the age of 90 in Quincy, Massachusetts on July 4, 1826. That's right, the 4th of July, the day that we celebrate our nation's independence from Great Britain. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson both died on the same day, July 4, 1826, Thomas Jefferson being the 3rd President of the United States. They both died on the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. How crazy is that? Coincidence? I think not. Alright, let's move on. No. 3. Thomas Jefferson. He served terms from 1801 to 1809. Thomas Jefferson was born in Shadwell, Virginia on April 13, 1743. That's right, April as in the month of tax day here in the United States. Happy Tax Day, everyone. And if you're not in the United States, then I hope that you have something nice planned for today. I'm gonna be eating a cupcake. Thomas Jefferson died at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, Virginia on July 4, 1826. The cause of death was basically just old age. He lived a good, long life. He was 83 years old. Moving on to No. 4. James Madison. He served terms from 1809 to 1817. James Madison was born in Port Conway, Virginia on March 16, 1751. That's right, March as in the month of National Nutrition Month. Let's eat healthy, everyone. James Madison died at Montpelier in Virginia on June 28, 1836. His cause of death was basically just old age again. He died at the ripe age of 85. No. 5. James Monroe. He served one term from 1817 to 1825. James Monroe was born in Westmoreland County, Virginia on April 28, 1758. That's right, April as in the month of National Arab American Heritage Month. Did you know that the first Arab Americans were Syrian immigrants who came to the United States in the early 1700s? James Monroe died at the age of 63 in New York City on July 4, 1831. That's right, another July. What is going on with this country? His cause of death was tuberculosis. Number 6. John Quincy Adams. He served one term from 1825 to 1829. John Quincy Adams was born in Braintree, Massachusetts on July 11, 1767. That's right, July is in the month of the birth of not only John Quincy Adams, but also our nation's independence. John Quincy Adams died at the age of 80 in Washington, D.C., on February 23, 1848. His cause of death was a stroke. Okay, moving on to number 7. Andrew Jackson. He served terms from 1829 to 1837. Andrew Jackson was born in the Waxhaws region, which is the border area between what is now South Carolina and North Carolina, on March 15, 1767. That's right, March as in the month of National Kidney Month. Andrew Jackson died at the Hermitage in Tennessee on June 8, 1845. His cause of death was a combination of several illnesses, including heart disease, chronic indigestion, and what we would call today PTSD. That's right, post-traumatic stress disorder. Andrew Jackson had experienced so much trauma throughout his life. He had been in so many battles. He was in the Revolutionary War. He was in the War of 1812. He was in a bunch of other conflicts, and all of that took its toll on him. Next up, Martin Van Buren. He served one term from 1837 to 1841. Martin Van Buren was born in Kinderhook, New York on December 5, 1782. That's right, December as in the month of Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah to those of you who celebrate. Martin Van Buren died at the age of 79 in Kinderhook, New York on July 24, 1862. That's right, another July. Is this a coincidence? What do you think? His cause of death was a heart attack. Moving on to William Henry Harrison. He served one term from 1841 to 1841. I know that was a very short time period. William Henry Harrison was born in Charles City County, Virginia on February 9, 1773. That's February as in the month of Black History Month. In case you didn't know, February is also the month of President's Day here in the United States. William Henry Harrison died on April 4, 1841. He died just 31 days after his inauguration. He is the only president of the United States to die in office from anything other than assassination or complications from an assassination attempt. He caught pneumonia from delivering his 2-hour inaugural address in cold weather without a coat or hat. Can you imagine? John Tyler. He served out the remainder of William Henry Harrison's term, so from 1841 to 1845. John Tyler was born in Orient, Virginia on March 29, 1790. That's right, March as in the month of National Kidney Month. Remember what I said about kidney health earlier? Well, I'm saying it again because it's important. John Tyler died at the age of 63 in Washington, D.C. on January 18, 1862. His cause of death was a stroke. All right, moving on to James K. Polk. He served one term from 1845 to 1849. James K. Polk was born in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina on November 2, 1795. That's right, November as in the month of Native American Heritage Month. James K. Polk died at the age of 63 in Nashville, Tennessee on June 15, 1849. His cause of death was most likely acute gastroenteritis. That's basically inflammation of the stomach and intestines. But some historians believe that he died from cholera. Moving on to Zachary Taylor. He served one term from 1849 to 1850. Zachary Taylor was born in Orange County, Virginia on November 24, 1784. That's right, November as in the month of Native American Heritage Month. Remember what I said about Native American Heritage Month earlier? Well, I'm saying it again because it's important. Zachary Taylor died in 1850 at the White House. Now, when he became president, he brought his horse, Old Whitey, with him to the White House, and Old Whitey was carrying a lot of Taylor's luggage up a flight of stairs when he kicked the bucket. Taylor blamed himself for the horse's death and spiraled into a depression. He became extremely ill and died just 16 months into his presidency. His cause of death was gastroenteritis. Millard Fillmore. He served out the remainder of Zachary Taylor's term, so from 1850 to 1853. Millard Fillmore was born in Summerhill, New York on January 7, 1800. That's right, January as in the month of National Mentoring Month. Mentorship is such an important thing. Millard Fillmore died at the age of 74 in Buffalo, New York on March 8, 1874. His cause of death was a stroke. Pierce, he served from 1853 to 1857. Franklin Pierce was born in Hillsborough, New Hampshire on November 23, 1804. That's right, November as in the month of Native American Heritage Month. Remember what I said about Native American Heritage Month earlier? Well, I'm saying it again because it's important. Franklin Pierce died at the age of 64 in Concord, New Hampshire on October 8, 1869. His cause of death was cirrhosis of the liver, which is a condition where you have scar tissue on your liver. And what caused his cirrhosis of the liver was basically just drinking too much alcohol. Okay. Moving on to James Buchanan. He served from 1857 to 1861. James Buchanan was born in Cove Gap, Pennsylvania on April 23, 1791. That's right, April as in the month of Arab American Heritage Month. Remember what I said about Arab American Heritage Month earlier? Well, I'm saying it again because it's important. James Buchanan died at the age of 65 in Whitland, Pennsylvania on June 1, 1868. His cause of death was probably congestive heart failure. Abraham Lincoln, he served from 1861 to 1865. Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin in Hodgenville, Kentucky on February 12, 1809. That's right, February as in the month of Black History Month. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth on April 14, 1865 at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. His cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head. Andrew Johnson, he served out the remainder of Abraham Lincoln's term, so from 1865 to 1869. Andrew Johnson was born in Raleigh, North Carolina on December 29, 1808. That's right, December as in the month of National Roof Over Your Head Month. This is a lesser-known fact about Andrew Johnson, but he was actually the first president of the United States to live in the White House. Before Andrew Johnson, presidents would rent rooms or apartments in private homes near the White House because it was unconnected to the rest of the White House complex. Andrew Johnson died at the age of 66 in 1875 in his adopted hometown of Carter County, Tennessee. His cause of death was a stroke. Ulysses S. Grant, he served to terms from 1869 to 1877. Ulysses S. Grant was born in Point Pleasant, Ohio on April 27, 1822. That's right, April as in the month of Arab American Heritage Month. Remember what I said about Arab American Heritage Month earlier? Well, I'm saying it again because it's important. Ulysses S. Grant died at the age of 63 in Mount McGregor, New York on July 23, 1885. His cause of death was throat cancer, which eventually spread to his lungs. Okay, moving on to Rutherford B. Hayes. He served one term from 1877 to 1881. Rutherford B. Hayes was born in Delaware, Ohio on October 4, 1822. That's right, October as in the month of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Rutherford B. Hayes died at the age of 54 in Fremont, Ohio on January 17, 1893. His cause of death was a heart attack. James A. Garfield. He served one term from 1881 to 1881. James A. Garfield was born in Cleveland, Ohio on November 19, 1831. That's right, November as in the month of National Native American Heritage Month. James A. Garfield was assassinated by Charles Guiteau, July 2, 1881 at the Baltimore and Potomac Railroad Station in Washington, D.C. His cause of death was a gunshot wound to the arm, which led to a systemic infection. If you want to learn more about this assassination, I will link to a video that I did last year all about this case in the description box below. Chester A. Arthur. He served out the remainder of James A. Garfield's term. So, from 1881 to 1885. Chester A. Arthur was born in Fairfield, Vermont on October 5, 1829. That's right, October as in the month of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Chester A. Arthur died at the age of 55 in New York City on November 18, 1886. His cause of death was a combination of several illnesses, including diabetes, heart disease, and Bright's disease, which is a disease of the kidneys. Grover Cleveland, he served in non-consecutive terms, so from 1885 to 1889, and then again from 1893 to 1897. Grover Cleveland was born in Caldwell, New Jersey on March 18, 1837. That's right, March as in the month of National Nutrition Month. Grover Cleveland died at the age of 71 in Princeton, New Jersey on June 24, 1908. His cause of death was a stroke. Benjamin Harrison, he served one term from 1889 to 1893. Benjamin Harrison was born in North Bend, Ohio on August 20, 1833. That's right, August as in the month of National Immunization Awareness Month. Vaccines save lives. Benjamin Harrison died at the age of 65 in Indianapolis, Indiana on March 13, 1901. His cause of death was pneumonia. William McKinley, he served from 1897 to 1901. William McKinley was born in Niles, Ohio on January 29, 1843. That's right, January as in the month of National Mentoring Month. William McKinley was assassinated by Leon Czolgosz on September 6, 1901 at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. His cause of death was a gunshot wound to the abdomen. Theodore Roosevelt, he served out the remainder of William McKinley's term, so from 1901 to 1909. Theodore Roosevelt was born in New York City on October 27, 1858. That's right, October as in the month of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Theodore Roosevelt died at the age of 60 in Oyster Bay, New York on January 6, 1919. His cause of death was a combination of several illnesses, including asthma, diabetes, and congestive heart failure. So that brings us to the end of part 1 of this two-part series. I'll see you in part 2. Bye.